Okay. Hey, let's get caught up on 1980s news. Hey, this week on 1980s news, according to Leah Thompson. Sorry. According to Leah Thompson, I always want to say Leah, and I tell you why. It's because as a kid, I knew Leia before I knew any Leah. And I heard Leia.
Yes.
Right.
You're playing with your action figures. Leia.
Leia.
What I realize now is I don't know any other Leia. Everyone else I know with this spelling of a name or similar is Leah. And I know like 5 Leahs. So that's how I remember it. There's only one Leia. Everyone. Okay, so according to Leah Thompson, Marvel ruined her career, which is a surprise to me because she seems like she's doing fine, right? But
I looked at her filmography. There's barely a year where she hasn't acted. So I'm not quite sure about this.
Absolutely
whole
devastated,
thing.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, look, it could have gone that way because
well,
lately, for over a decade now, many actors have longed to appear in Marvel movies. They dominate the box office. They've helped careers of folks that were lesser known, and they've helped revive careers of folks like Robert Downey Jr., who are sort of, constantly waxing and waning. But in the 1980s, that wasn't so. We had a number of different Marvel projects on TV. A couple of things, I don't think anything made it to the movies. I think this was the first comic book, certainly adaptation, a Marvel film on the big screen. I think that might be true. We had a lot of made-for-TV stuff.
Yes.
And, as kids, we loved it. And you watch it now, it's almost unwatchable.
It's so goofy.
Well, and there was made-for-TV stuff that didn't even make it to TV, for that matter.
What was that made for?
No, they just killed it. Yeah.
Made for the incinerator.
Yeah, there was like a Fantastic Four film that got the kibosh when Stan Lee stepped in and said, this is not exactly what I was hoping for, and like it never hit the... There's a whole documentary about it. You watch a documentary about it, but you can't watch it.
There's the Roger Corman one I think you're talking about, right?
That's right. Exactly right. Yep.
I mean, you could do a whole episode on that, right? Whereas Fox had as a deal that they have to make a Fantastic Four movie every summer, several number of years. Otherwise, they lose the rights. So, God damn, they're going to make a Fantastic Four movie, even if it's garbage.
It's terrible.
And that's what they did, yeah. But speaking of making garbage, while speaking to the Celebrity Catch-Up podcast, Thompson reflected on a number of important events throughout her career. And while one of those is undoubtedly Back to the Future, that put her on the map in 1985, it was her role in 1986's Howard the Duck, just a few months later, that she believes had a bigger, though negative, impact on her future work. She said, quote, "It was devastating. In the course of a year, I was in the biggest hit and the biggest bomb. So that probably destroyed my film career. Even though I did some good films after that, it was really difficult," end quote. So she does acknowledge she kept working, but
I'm curious to hear more about this. Like, did she have her eyes on a certain role, or did she have some expectation of how things were going to go, and then being associated with a flop? So was it a self-perception thing for her, or did she? It doesn't sound like she wasn't ever working. She was always in something. Yeah,
agreed. And certainly she's made films after this that are beloved, like Casual Sex and Some Kind of Wonderful, I believe, was after this. She was on.
And she's doing directing, right? She just directed the most recent several episodes of the most recent series of Star Trek Picard.
Right, right.
Cool.
Yeah. It is
doing great work.
Curious, and this kind of reminds me of what we talked about. What was it that we talked about recently? It was having anxiety problems trying to perform on stage.
Oh, yeah. Metallica.
Metallica dude, right?
Oh, yeah, the Metallica dude. Shoot, I should know that name. I don't remember who it was. But yeah, that idea that, having accomplished anything, just like the rest of us, you could still have those, insecurities, I suppose.
That's true. Yeah, I wonder if she just doesn't like being associated with something that was not
But I can see rolling out of Back to the Future and going, this is going to be my career from here on out. And then when it wasn't like that, you don't get many Back to the Futures. There are just a handful of those, and I get that's a kind of speaking of clickbait, it's kind of a clickbaity thing to say, a Marvel movie ruined her career. Okay. Legally, according to the nerds, yes, it's a Marvel movie, but it's not a Marvel movie. A Marvel movie is Marvel's an adjective for a movie that means something in modern times. It's this giant blockbuster that's super popular. That wasn't Howard the Duck. It was a movie made that happened to be owned by Marvel. That was it, right? So.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know that. Yeah, to your point, John, it probably wasn't promoted. Marvel's name probably isn't in this thing at all.
No.
Now, it was a George Lucas movie, though. This is a Lucasfilm production.
Right.
George Lucas was so excited about producing this movie that he actually stepped down from one of his roles at Lucasfilm so he could have more free time to work on it, because he had a lot of faith that this thing was going to take off. I think in the first few minutes, when you see so many, anthropomorphic duck breasts, this movie's it's
going to be a winner.
Yes,
can't do anything but win.
Yes, absolutely.
I, for one, liked this movie. I don't think it's a good movie, but I liked the movie. I enjoyed it.
I watched it recently for the first time.
Yeah.
And it was totally goofy. I don't need to see it again. I think if I had watched it when I was 14, I would have gotten more attached to it. It probably would have had a nostalgia thing happening. But
did you see it in the 80s, John? Is that
yeah. I remember as a kid, I there just wasn't that much goofy stuff like that at the theater. There just wasn't. And so this is something that was pseudo serious, pseudo goofy. It was kind of adulty. It had that heavy metal feel to it. Like, this is kind of a cartoon that's dirty almost. I love it.
Yes.
It's that kind of vibe to it. I think. I rented it several times just because. Yeah.
I ask this question every time Howard the Duck comes up, because I haven't watched it since the 1980s, but she bangs that duck, right? I mean, there's no question, right? You just saw it, Kat. I mean,
it's,
yeah, there's
it's not on screen,
explicit.
but it's pretty well implied. Yeah.
Aren't they smoking a cigarette in the next scene? The right? It's something like that, right? Where they that signal we used in the 80s to let folks know these people just had intercourse.
That's so. That's right.
Yeah.
And I think they set it up with all the. Seriously, I'm not making this up. There's a lot of duck nudity in the beginning of the first couple minutes.
There is. Yeah. Yes, there is.
And these are there's a lot of duck dong. I mean, just why are they showing so many erect, aroused ducks? I don't know.
How many is the right number, do you think?
2? It's
2?
always, yes.
All done.
Yeah. Anyway, so the folks disagreed with you, John. Unfortunately, it was a massive bomb, earning just back $38 million of its $37 million budget.
Oh, he only made $1 million.
It made $1 million.
Give me that failing money.
But well, yes, except most of it goes to marketing and agents, etc. Lucas didn't see any of that money, and it still sits at a comfortable 14% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Comfortable.
They recently tried to revive Howard the Duck by having him make a couple of cameos in some recent Marvel films.
Yes.
And that appearance is very different and more comic book accurate as far as the appearance of the. And this current iteration is voiced by actor Seth Green.
Yeah, well, he was like in the collector's collection, I think. He showed up, right?
Yes.
In Guardians.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
I may have heard of Howard the Duck before that, but that moment made me think, I really need to figure this out. And then
I need to go in the back catalog of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and get it's Howard the Duck.
He's also in the final fight scene of the last Avengers movie. He's there in the line when all the good guys show up. He's got a giant gun or something.
That's right. Oh, I forgot that.
Yeah. Now, although Seth Green voiced him recently, Chip Zien, I'm going to say, or Zine, is the voice actor who was ultimately cast to play Howard the Duck in the original 1986 film. However, it was revealed on the 35th anniversary interview for Hollywood Reporter last year that Robin Williams had the job at first.
Wow.
But he quit because he couldn't handle it. And according to Zine, he said, quote, "What I was told by the third day is that Robin said, I can't do this. It's insane. I can't get the rhythm of this. I'm being confined. I'm being handcuffed in order to match the flapping duck's bill." End quote.
Oh, interesting.
So they had already, if you remember, it's an animatronic head that Lucasfilm had created on the costume.
Yeah.
So they already recorded all the footage, and Robin was to sync his audio with the imagery.
Oh my!
And Robin Williams, you can put that guy in a straitjacket. He's gonna improvise his way right out of that.
Yeah,
there's no
start bouncing off the walls. Right,
exactly. No containing him.
Right. There's no improvisation when you're matching an existing lip sync.
Exactly.
I would see that. It'd be weird, but I mean,
he could have made it not a flop, but
Yeah.
they were trying to box
They
him
just
in.
cut to a lot of like behind the head shots, so you can't see the
reaction shots.
Yes, yeah. You just show Leah. I'd rather look at Leah Thompson anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
I thought you were going to say you'd rather look at the back of a duck's head, and I really didn't want to know why.
Because then I can't see the dong. Why am I saying duck dong? You know, guys, I got to tell you something. Every week I listen to the show, and then I'm like, I'm going to try to avoid certain things. Now, so far in this episode, I'm avoiding the certain things I committed to myself after the last episode. But now I've added
you've added to the list for the next episode now? Right. Now on the list, duck dong, choco balls. You have a list now of things not to talk about.
There was a vacuum. You created a vacuum.
Yeah.
It's being filled with something.
Just be normal. Okay.
You're like Robin Williams. You cannot be contained.
Yes.
Don't go by a list.
Well, I'm trying to match the lips of the guy on the screen right now. Yeah. Hey, another 1980s news. Per the insider, Jennifer Grey shared more details about her relationship with Patrick Swayze. So while promoting her new memoir, Out of the Corner, the Dirty Dancing star recently told the hosts of The View about a touching moment with her former co-star. So, look, we've always heard that maybe there was friction between them, and even friction between them on the set of Dirty Dancing, where we talked about this, I think, when we talked with Queen V about some scenes in films a few episodes ago. Look, it's undeniable they have chemistry on the film, but we had heard rumors about some tension. Well, she had Jennifer had told the host of The View that they actually did have some friction prior to filming, because on the set of Red Dawn, a film they made together in 1984, Swayze would play pranks on her on the set that she didn't like. Sometimes he was also late to the filming where they were shooting in New Mexico, and also just behaved like he was the boss of everyone. She said, quote, "It was just like macho, and I just couldn't take it. I was like, please, this guy, enough with him." End quote. So, you know,
can relate.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no. Why? Wait, what?
Please, these guys.
I didn't say
enough with these guys.
I committed to not saying certain things, Kat. Now, you didn't know about the dog. I'm going to say it again. Don't stop. You cock. All right. So you gotta look. So she's there to audition. I don't know if she had the part before he did. I think she may have. And when she shows,
like she did, yeah.
And then now she's being right. They're doing chemistry tests with her and a bunch of other actors. Patrick Swayze is one of them, and she's like, "Hang on, no, this guy is a jerk. I don't like this guy." So she was
enough with this guy.
Yeah, enough with this guy. And the things I'm tossing out in my head. Enough with this guy.
Forget about it.
Yeah. But when they suggested anyway. But she admitted that during the screen test for the film, Swayze convinced her to change her mind about him. She said, quote, "He pulled me down the hall and said to me," already it sounds bad, right? The story.
You screwed this up for me. I swear to God, Leah.
Right. He pulls me down the hall and he said to me, he said, quote, I love you, and I'm so sorry. I know you don't want to do the movie with me. Gray told him while she was impersonating Swayze's accent. And quote, he got tears in his eyes, and I got tears in my eyes, not for the same reason. And he goes, we could kill it if we do this. She said she wasn't quite convinced, thinking he may be working her over, but then, quote, we go in there and he takes me in his arms and I'm like, oh boy. End quote. She admitted from that point on there was no competition for the role.
I want to know what her tears were about. She doesn't really
right? Huh.
Yeah.
Well, I would think just the release.
Oh, go ahead. No, go, John.
I would think just the release of years of pent up frustration with this person, you know, and you've had a grudge with somebody, and you're like, nobody wants to break the ice and do anything. Yeah. He's done it, and now it's got to be a catharsis, a release to go. This is not a thing anymore. Whether it turns out positive or negative, I've broken this down, and now we can move forward. I can imagine that's probably if I were Leah Thompson and was upset about. So about Swayze, I could see that being
about being pranked and machismo'd by
right,
Patrick Swayze.
Right, just fed up with this. Don't even look at him. And now here's like, look, it was totally me. I know how you feel. I get it. Let's move forward, and that's got to be relief.
It must be. And I was going to say I'm glad to hear that they resolved something, because when we discussed this in the news one time, it kind of bugged me because their chemistry is really cool in the movie, and I was like, oh man, they didn't get along in real life. I happy about that. So now I can feel happier about it, that they were able to resolve something. Yeah.
Now, I think the other stories we had, not for the same reason. The other stories we heard, I think, were true, though, too, right, Kat, about how in the film he was really frustrated with her for her lack of dancing ability because he's a trained dancer. And
correct.
He was like, enough with this woman.
Enough with this woman. Well, yes, he probably was thinking that.
And then he pulled her down the hall and said what John said earlier.
And didn't she have control? Oh, wait. She had trouble controlling her laughter because when they would do that one move, right? Like and she kept giggling and falling apart. And
she's very ticklish. Whatever.
Yeah.
I know what I was going to say. You made me think, your comment, John, about maybe why she was crying because this release, etc. I'm trying to think, did I ever have a moment where someone approached me and said, look, you remember back then I was a real asshole to you. I am sorry. And then how that felt. And what occurs to me is no one's ever done it. I can't think of anybody apologizing to me for like, you remember, back a couple of years ago when I was doing those things to you. That never happened, I don't think. Now, I've looked up people and apologized to.
Oh, right.
And there's some people I expected apologies from. And when I apologized to them, they were like, thank you. You were an asshole. And I'm
it's about damn time, Will.
Oh.
And they left you hanging? That was it.
I apologized to John just a few days ago, probably for the last episode. What were you going to say, Kat? You're waiting for some people? There's some people
I'm
you
not
wish
waiting. There's a few people I can think of that I would like for them to apologize or, for a certain way that they were treating me or somebody else. But I'm not waiting around for any of that. Can't wait for that. Yeah. I've had a couple people approach me and sort of say, hey, I was going through a difficult time at that period in my life, and I'm sorry if I was too much or, and that was interesting. And I was like, it's okay. I didn't feel that way.
And were they too much, or you didn't feel that way? You didn't feel that they were? It was just their perception, or no?
No, I was just like go rolling with it. And when they pointed out things, I thought, okay, well, sure. But it wasn't anything so glaring that it was that I felt like it was apology worthy. We're all people just doing our thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Hey, that's it? All right.
Yep.
Hey, okay. In other 1980s news, as reported by Slash Film, the Ghostbusters Afterlife crew created secret eBay accounts to track down vintage props.
That's so cool.
So if you've seen,
I think that's awesome.
Yeah, right. If you've seen Afterlife, and certainly the three of us have. In fact, we spoke to Ernie Hudson about it. You can go back and find that episode. It's pretty cool.
Yes, we did.
One of the fun things about seeing Afterlife, and certainly multiple viewings, was seeing how many Easter eggs you could spot in the background. Because look, we grew up on Ghostbusters, but we didn't grow up on Ghostbusters any more than Jason Reitman did, because he grew up on the set literally of Ghostbusters.
Yes.
And Ghostbusters 2. He was actually in Ghostbusters 2. But so Jason Reitman was meticulous in wanting to recreate Ghostbusters nostalgia in his sequel to that, and he looked to fill his film with as many different Easter eggs from the original as he could get his hands on. And as described in, let's see, I cut that part out. All right, here we go. So in Ozzy, I thought I know this, how to say it. Seriously, in Ozzy Inguanzo, there we go. In Ozzy Inguanzo's book, Ghostbusters Afterlife, The Art and Making of the Movie, set director Pat Healy explains how creators needed to go undercover to track down a lot of the details about the original Ghostbusters. To his great, fortune, a lot of the gadgets referred to in the classic film could be found online among some of the world's most obsessive Ghostbusters fans. I mean, and it turns out a lot of the things that are seen in the background of that film were actual pieces of scientific equipment. And that's not surprising, right? I think we talked about what a lightsaber hilt is, really, John, right? Didn't you bring that up once?
Yeah, we talked about that.
So in making props, the real shortcut is just taking a real life object and just turning it into something, combining a couple of things together, bud.
Into something else. But I can imagine if I had an original ghost trap or background piece or whatever, current high bidder, I.Reitman, like, oh, really? Is that right?
Yes.
Oh.
Reserve not met
for triple. That's right.
Yeah. Why am I bidding against the owner of it? What is happening here? Healy said, "Quote: I did whatever I
see that.
Good. Oh, good.
I can certainly see that, because if you go to any conventions, and you've been going to a few yourself, there's a huge Ghostbusters community, and they're not half-stepping on the authenticity of backpacks and traps and paraphernalia and crap on their cars. You look, you just have a very limited stuff to reference, just a couple of films that you can go, okay, what did they use here? What did they use here? And they have torn it apart frame by frame. And so the fact that the people making Afterlife turn to those guys who've been obsessing about it for 40 years to go, I need the thing. Mwah, chef's kiss. Love it.
Yeah, it's so efficient. It makes perfect sense. And you're right. I've spoken to some of those members of those organizations at some of the conventions. And wow, yes. And Healy said, I did whatever I could to maintain accuracy and acquire these obscure pieces. That meant sometimes purchasing them on eBay or replicating them and keeping it true 100% to the littlest detail. Many of the props in the set dressing in the first movie were actually real pieces of scientific equipment, end quote. The book describes a number of different ways they came to, either like acquire or otherwise recreate these different pieces, including the Wolverson angiographic injector. So I didn't know what it was called, of course, but it turns out that's the machine that's being wheeled out of the university when the Ghostbusters are being kicked out. Yeah. You remember the guys wearing like headphones and like you hear the music as he pops by? Now, I think I remember seeing that. I think that's in the basement or the workshop. Okay. Right, that Egon has his secret workshop. It's sitting in the background in one of those.
Is it? I don't remember seeing it, but I mean, it makes sense that it would be there.
Yeah.
I wonder if any of the people that they bought this stuff from, did they find out later who bought it? And it was in the because I think of like this Galaxy Quest kind of like to find out that I've been the custodian of this legacy stuff and now it's being reacquired and used in the thing I love.
Yeah,
it would blow me away. I hope that people found out after the fact.
Yeah. That would be rewarding, and you wouldn't feel like, I should have gotten more money for this, versus I Reitman on eBay. But wow, now I can point to I'm a part of the thing that I've loved. Yeah, another notable prop from the '84 film that could not be located was I'm glad they mentioned this because I always wonder what this thing is, and this is one they couldn't find, so they had to build it from scratch. Talking about the squeeze bulb ghost sniffer. If you remember, Peter Venkman walks into Dana Barrett's office and is pumping that.
Oh, yep. Has like a little sample hose, like he's how many parts per million he's testing or whatever the hell he thinks he's doing.
She's like, but doesn't she ask him what does that do? And he's like, it's technical. Or no, technical. He's like, well, actually, it's right before he plays the piano. They hate this.
Yes.
He probably doesn't know is the reality. He has no idea what it does.
Yeah. I always wonder what that was. Well, it turns out that's another real scientific bit of equipment that is used to detect combustible gas used by workers in closed environments where gas may be present. It's called a Baccarat Sniffer. And that was a particular model 300 made by United Technologies. And United Technologies apparently, Baccarat sniffers are still available. People are still needing to sniff out gas in these with these things, but the 300 was nowhere to be found. So Healy built his own by acquiring the various screen accurate pieces. Again, by reaching out to these different sources to find out, what the experts knew. Yeah.
And I love that. I'm guessing some of the items in the original movie, they may have put a whole lot of thought into it, or maybe not. It's just we need a weird thing here, and so they bring it in. But to make Afterlife, like all the effort they have to go through to replicate it, so something that wasn't even that important or that big a deal before is like super important. For the authenticity.
Little known trivia: the Baccarat Sniffer, also the name of a position featured in the opening scenes of Howard the Duck. Who knew?
No. Are you what? Wait, what?
No, it can't be. What?
What?
No.
Oh, I wish that were true. Oh.
No, I just made it up for your entertainment. That's all.
Oh man!
But what if it were?
You're just trying to get me to say something that I'm not going to say. I swear, I'm done with it. All right. In other 1980s news, as reported by Yahoo Entertainment, Toni Basil gets her Mickey acclaim and copyright 40 years later.
Wow.
Did you guys know that Toni Basil was 38 years old when when Mickey hit big in 1982?
No, I think I thought she was like 20.
Yeah, no, she was already super accomplished by the by the time the 80s rolled around. She'd already danced or choreographed for Shindig. These are shows. A lot of these are before our time, but certainly we know of their legacy. Viva Las Vegas, which now it occurs to me that was a show where ultimately Cassandra Peterson danced in. I wonder if they were there at the same time. That's possible. She also worked on the Monkey's Head movie.
Which I looked that up because I watched that and I enjoyed it. And I was like, wait, what? She's in there? And so then I saw the bit that she was in. Yeah.
And American Graffiti. She acted in Easy Rider and 5 Easy Pieces. She choreographed David Bowie's Diamond Dogs and, more curiously, the Talking Heads' Once in a Lifetime music video. Same as it ever was.
Yep. Yeah. I learned so many things in this article. I mean, her age, for one, again, she projected herself as much younger. I mean, I guess cheerleader's costume doesn't hurt.
Well,
But how accomplished she was before I'd ever heard of her. And then I was stunned. Maybe this is typical, but I was stunned that this hit, her biggest hit, that she didn't already have. Like I read the title and I'm like, she didn't already have the rights to it? Are you kidding me? But no, it has a bit of a storied career that she didn't. Yeah. People debated who wrote it and who is responsible for it and who originally wrote it. And she earns it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And for folks who don't know, it's actually a cover of a 1979 song, or I mean, it's a remake in a sense because she did tweak it and make it her own. But the original song was called Kitty by a group named Racy. It was part of our secret 1980s covers years ago, I think. Years ago. The show's only been on the air.
Hey, you can say years. It was probably
Actually,
like 2 years ago.
I think it's our 3rd anniversary this week. Now I'm thinking about it.
And I've been on the show for a year in May.
Yeah.
It's been a whole year. Yeah.
So yeah, a couple of seasons ago, let's say a couple of years ago, we did do an episode about and included Mickey. So the original, as I mentioned, the original song was named Kitty, so that was one of her changes. But the other thing that more importantly was that she added this cheerleader chant in it, which and based on her experience as an actual cheerleader. It was something that she always thought would make for a good song. And she had created another thing that's important that she created, or is important to 1980s pop culture, is she had created earlier than that, I think it was in the 70s, a street dance troupe called the Lockers, which they did popping and locking, which, is part of the ultimate various dance styles that we, in a larger umbrella known as hip hop. West Coast dancing was different now than East Coast was evolving. Came from different cultures and different sources. But one of her co-founders was Adolfo Quinones, Shabba-Doo. Yes, that's Shabba-Doo from Break-In. Boogaloo Shrimp and Shabba. So he was a locker with Tony Basil. So that's another way that, again, she had played a, most folks don't even appreciate that about her. But
she's got her hands, feet, actually everywhere.
Yes.
Feet, yeah.
That makes Same As It Ever Was makes so much more sense now, doesn't it? It's a take on popping and locking, right? It's a very jerky, kind of herky-jerky sort of kind of movement, right?
Absolutely.
And what's fantastic is, at 78 years old, if you follow her on social media, she is still dancing like she was. I was going to say in her 20s, but we've seen her dancing in her almost 40s.
Right.
It was her,
still fantastic.
That's so cool.
John, you pointed out the cheerleader outfit didn't hurt when trying to look younger. That's actually one of her cheerleader outfits, an actual cheerleader outfit that she wore when she was a cheerleader.
It was an original. I love that song.
She's 38, like still fits. Let's go.
It'll fit her today. I mean, she is in great shape. She looks fantastic.
Yeah, my cheerleader outfit does not fit me anymore.
Oh, John.
Is that the costume change you were
The skirt does, but the rest, no.
No?
Sometimes I'll just wear the skirt.
Nothing else?
Hey, I'll leave that up to you. Whatever it is in your
My
head,
imagination.
however you want it to be. That's right.
I'm picturing
when
it
I think
now.
of it, here's how I picture it. Okay.
Yeah. I picture
Ball
you fully
cap.
clothed. Bald cap?
No, I said ball cap.
Oh, bald cap. I picture myself with a bald cap and a skirt. You know what
now
you
I'm
look like?
picturing Howard the Duck character.
Not the
Howard
bald
the Duck
cap.
again.
Definitely the skirt. No.
All right, if you only had a bald cap and a skirt on, you'd look like a shuttlecock. Right?
What did you call me?
Shuttlecock?
Wah. You just had to get back to birds, didn't you?
I'm not saying it. It is crazy that, well, look, I guess it didn't surprise me that maybe she didn't have the copyright because it's probably, and I didn't read the legal side of it. I'm curious, and, maybe I got some time, I'll do it because that stuff fascinates me, especially copyright in the entertainment industry. But it was a cover. So already she's got, she's cutting somebody else in. But then whoever actually creates the record has a right to it. Just that actual physical, we helped you, she had it. She added her own bits to it. So it was probably a lot of different rights. But yeah, that she'd have none of those.
Yeah, I call bullshit. She brought everything to that song that made it the song that it was.
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Well,
Yes.
well, the judge agrees with you, John, because
Hear ye.
at the end of May, after a nearly decade-long legal battle, Basil had claimed she'd never profited from the single, and the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit ruled that she is the sole owner of the copyright for Mickey and for Word of Mouth. The judge wrote, quote, "There is strong evidence that artistic control lay solely with Basilata, her actual last name, not with the recording company or, by extension, the record producer. Basilata appears to have primarily wielded creative control, selecting songs and instrumental musicians, devising the creative concepts of the recordings, and even helping the producer mix the master tapes." Yeah, John, you're right. She did everything.
That's right. The judge agrees. It's called the bullshit clause, and he agrees with me. She earned it, and I'm glad she has it. What is she? Is she gonna? You can't really reclaim lost. Who would you reclaim from? Because it was spread so thinly. But going forward, right? Hey, next season of Stranger Things, she'll get featured and she'll be in good shape, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no spoilers, but there's cheerleaders in this current season. Yeah.
Well, I feel like I want to put this on a repeat loop, for
It's for the
so we
pennies.
can support her. Yeah. I love this song as a what year did it come out?
82.
How old I was. Yeah. 11-year-old. Yeah. Definitely popular for me.
And you guys, not even as huge a Weird Al fans as I am, were familiar with Ricky. Right?
Oh,
you know the
yes.
Ricky parody that Weird Al did.
Oh, yes. I remember that video.
I think
Perhaps
that was the one cat that you said was your favorite, right? You loved this
Yep,
one. The video
absolutely.
especially,
Yeah. And I think probably the first time I realized who Weird Al was.
Yeah. That
Was
might
Ricky.
have been.
It was so quotable. Yeah. And in a bit of, I guess, justice or karma, it turns out the original record company didn't want her to do the cheerleading thing with the song. They thought it was a bad idea.
There you
Silly
go.
them.
Hey, and finally, in 1980s news, there is a trailer out, not a trailer. We can call it a trailer for the sake of efficiency.
Ooh, yeah.
There's a trailer out for the upcoming Predator sequel, and the movie's called Prey. It's the fifth. No. Sorry. It's the new entry in the Predator franchise that's coming to Hulu this August. And here's the description of the film for folks who do not know what they're going to see here. It's set in the Comanche Nation 300 years ago. Isn't that crazy? I just love this idea.
Yes.
It's a story of a young woman, Naru. I might be saying that wrong. A fierce and highly skilled warrior. She's been raised in the shadow of some of the most legendary hunters who roam the Great Plains. So when danger threatens her camp, she sets out to protect her people. The prey she stalks and ultimately confronts turns out to be a highly evolved alien predator with a technically advanced arsenal, resulting in a vicious and terrifying showdown between the two adversaries. And that's what you see in the trailer. I didn't know that they were doing this. I had heard Prey was coming. I lost interest because the last Predator reboot we got was terrible.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Alien versus Predator was terrible. So it's like 50-50 whether these films in the franchise have been good or not. But this one is good, John.
And frankly, this one might be terrible too. We just don't know yet. But it's a fresh take because all we've ever seen is like, okay, these are the Predator, and we know that they're big game hunters or small game hunters or whatever. They're trophy hunters. They go, and we learned that they go from system to system and planet to planet and franchise to franchise, hunting aliens from alien, and
Right.
and so they've already been to Earth. We saw them fighting in Predator when that character was introduced, and so now to go, I guess it's a prequel. Although for the Predator, it could be a sequel depending on if he's a time traveler. It doesn't matter. Point is, he's well before the events on Earth that took place on Predator. And as tough a time as we had with shotguns and machine guns, I don't know how they're going to handle with bows and arrows and stuff. But
oh my gosh!
I mean, it's not over. It's not a 10-minute movie, so I'm guessing they'll last a little while. But I'm intrigued to see what they do with it. You know, I'd use some ingenuity and some traps, and it looks cool.
So the film is being brought to us by Dan Trachtenberg, who also did a 10 Cloverfield Lane, which I actually like. No spoilers, but it gets pretty crazy by the end of it. But the film is a good film. But to your point, John, since the film is set in 1719, Trachtenberg had said it's tricky to figure out a way to present a predator that's 300 years less advanced. So he's not a time traveler. 300 years less
Okay,
advanced
good.
than the one we know from the previous films.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, having to balance it against the humans that he's going to face off with. But he did caution, saying that Predator fans don't need to worry because they'll see some familiar gadgets, some familiar weapons, but also a lot of new things.
So is this Predator was supposed to have arrived 300 years ago and then just hung out? Or did it leave and come back
Just waiting.
to meet Arnold?
In the trailer, you see some distortion and light in the clouds as if the ship is just arriving, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but you're wondering, is it stick around 300 years and then fight with Arnold later? I don't think so.
Yeah.
He took a nap.
I'm trying to remember the beginning of Predator, but I feel like they also have a similar, he just arrived kind of
arrival
thing.
Yeah,
okay. So maybe there's some travel.
Yeah.
Well, okay. And if the predators have evolved between Prey and the original Predator, you would have just stayed on Earth because you would not have gotten those cool new gadgets unless they postmated them to you or something on Earth.
Yeah. I thought it was cool that Trachtenberg also said he wanted to get out of the bodybuilder wrestler thing, which is one of the reasons he said it the way he did. So, because in the first film, it's notorious for having so much, being, representing machismo, and maybe we talked about machismo films. Just that one handshake that Carl Weathers and Arnold do, is the oiled biceps. They're flexing while they're greeting one another.
I ain't got time to bleed.
Yeah, that's right. So that's kind of cool, but otherwise it did feel like the pace of it may be similar to the original Predator, which I hope it's not. I mean, in a sense, being a fresh take in every way would be cool, and this mixing of sort of genres or times helps. This is pretty cool. A press release notes that Prey will be available on Hulu entirely in Comanche as a language option.
Really? That's cool.
Or with Comanche subtitles.
Yeah.
It's not known, and I think what happened is I think in the trailer you see they're speaking English, and they're not doing it in that cliche way that and somewhat maybe racist ways we've done in the past where the way Native Americans are represented to speak. They're just speaking in English, and so I think what I had also seen was the actors probably came back and dubbed themselves in Comanche, or someone dubbed them in Comanche. It's not like they recorded the film simultaneously in both languages.
Right.
That would not be the first time something like that's been done. I'm drawing a blank on the name of the series, but there's a pseudo comedy drama series about Vikings.
Okay.
They dual record scenes both in English and in Nordic or whatever, and they play it in different parts of the world. They do different edits. So if they did that here, I think that would be a great nod to indigenous peoples to go, hey, look, we're using these people, but you're going to see it in your native language if you want.
Yeah.
Nice. I hadn't heard that. That's the most interesting thing I've heard about this so far, and I was already excited.
I think it would be if it isn't just a bad dub of it. I would be checking it out like that. I don't. Whenever I watch films that are filmed in another language, I'd rather you hear the emotion, the passion, etc. come out in their true, their native tongue. All right, cool. Hey, that's everything there, right? Nothing else.
Nope.
All right, that was 1980s news.